Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the psychology of a generation that's so often forgotten. They're the quiet ones, the ones in the background, but their story is absolutely packed with quiet survival and a kind of hidden strength. Let's get into it.
You know, when you look at our culture today, it kind of feels like a constant fight, right? You've got the boomers squaring off with millennials and Gen Z, and the volume is always just cranked up to 11. But then there's this other group, born roughly between 1965 and 1980, just watching, taking it all in, maybe with a little smirk. That's Generation X. And here's the thing, they didn't just become invisible by accident. Nope, they were pretty much trained to be. And to understand how, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
See, the key to unlocking the Gen X mind isn't really found in their rebellious teen years, or even in their careers. Nah, it's rooted way deeper than that, back in their childhoods. That's where their entire psychological operating system was first installed.
Okay, so back in the 70s and 80s, society was going through this quiet, massive transformation. Divorce rates were on the rise, and for the first time, dual-income households were becoming the new normal. Well, this created this huge, unprecedented childcare gap, and guess who stepped in to fill it? Millions of kids. They became something totally new, Latchkey Kids. The iconic image of their childhood wasn't some big family dinner, it was a house key on a string hanging around their neck. Just try to picture it for a second. You're, 8 years old? You let yourself into a totally empty house, and the first thing that hits you is the silence. You learn to make your own snack, you do your homework with the TV on, just for some background noise. There's actually a psychological term for this, benign neglect. You're physically safe, sure, but emotionally, you're completely on your own. And that kind of environment literally rewires how a kid's brain develops.
So when you're a kid and you learn day after day that nobody is automatically coming to save you, you start to internalize this really brutal set of rules. You figure out really fast that comfort isn't a guarantee and that help isn't just a given. Now, this for sure hardwired a fierce independence in them, but it also taught them to make themselves invisible on purpose. To take up less space, to have fewer needs, and to just solve their own problems quietly so they wouldn't be a bother.
And here is where things get really, really interesting. Those coping mechanisms they learned as kids, they didn't just disappear as they got older. Oh no, they evolved. They basically hardened into the core personality traits that define so many people in Generation X today. This might be one of the biggest misunderstandings about Gen X. People think they're cold, but they're not cold. They're compressed. They were raised in a world where showing big, messy feelings was often seen as an inconvenience, so they mastered this incredible skill we can call emotional minimalism. They feel everything, probably more deeply than most of us realize, but they learned to package it all up really, really tightly.
This slide, I love this. It's basically a Gen X translation guide. Sarcasm and these short, clipped phrases become their emotional containers. So, "I'm fine" is actually code for "I am completely overwhelmed, but I'm handling this alone." A text that just says, "You still alive." That's their version of a deeply sentimental, "I miss you and I care about you." And whatever, isn't apathy. It is a powerful shield they use to protect themselves from disappointment.
But here's the thing about a superpower like self-reliance. It has a steep, hidden cost, because at a certain point, it stops being a strength and it becomes a wall. It creates these adults who feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable getting help, who honestly believe that venting is just pointless noise, and for whom vulnerability feels like a foreign language they just never got around to learning. It can become a really private, lonely kind of prison.
So if that independence is their engine, then you gotta think of cynicism as their armor. I mean, Gen X watched major institutions just crumble in real time. Watergate taught them that people in charge lie. The Cold War taught them that the future isn't promised to anyone. The Challenger disaster showed them that even our greatest achievements can fail, catastrophically. And then came the 80s, which made them the first generation to be relentlessly advertised to, which just perfectly fine-tuned their internal BS detector. So their cynicism, it's not just negativity, it's a learned defense mechanism.
But their story isn't just about emotional armor. Their specific timing in history gave them this incredibly rare cognitive advantage. They became a living bridge between two completely different worlds.
I mean, really think about it. Their childhood was 100% analog, riding bikes, memorizing phone numbers, and dealing with hours of boredom that actually forced them to be creative. Their brains were literally wired for patience and deep focus. Then, bam, the digital revolution just slams into their adulthood, and they had to adapt or get left behind. This makes them psychologically bilingual. They can troubleshoot your Wi-Fi router, but they also know how to fix the actual problem when all the tech fails completely. They are the essential and often totally unsung translators of our modern world.
But here's the part that almost nobody talks about, the hidden burnout that comes with that. They had to build the digital future while they were still carrying all these analog responsibilities. Like helping their parents with their passwords while training younger colleagues on brand new software. This constant code switching, this jumping between two mental realities, it creates this profound, quiet kind of exhaustion that they will almost never ever admit to.
And all of this, the self-reliance, the cynicism, the code switching, every single thread brings us right here, to this moment, where all those psychological traits are converging into a single, immense pressure cooker that pretty much defines their lives right now.
And that brings us to their current reality, the sandwich generation. I mean, the name really says it all, doesn't it? They are literally caught, sandwiched between two massive, simultaneous, and often totally conflicting sets of responsibilities. And this just lays out the insane pressure they're under. On one side, they're managing the incredibly complex care of their aging boomer parents. On the other side, they're trying to support their Gen Z and Alpha kids as they navigate a world with just unprecedented economic anxiety and mental health crises. And they're doing all of this while holding down demanding jobs, having already survived multiple financial meltdowns that hit them right in their prime earning years. It's a lot. So this pressure cooker environment makes Gen X uniquely vulnerable to something that is incredibly dangerous: high-functioning depression. Because their core programming, their default setting, is to just keep going no matter what, they can be productive and responsible and capable on the outside, all while they are silently drowning on the inside.
So here it is, the crucial point, the tragic paradox of it all. Their childhood training to be totally self-sufficient and need absolutely nothing has ironically made them the default support system for literally everyone else. They are carrying entire family ecosystems on their shoulders, all while being emotionally programmed to never, ever ask for help themselves.
But the story doesn't have to end in burnout. After decades and decades of just operating in survival mode, something really powerful is starting to happen. It's not a breakdown. It's more of a pivot. A quiet one, of course.
You see, a lot of people in Gen X are reaching this turning point. They're the ones quiet quitting the high-stress job to go open a bookstore, or maybe moving to a smaller town to be closer to nature. They played the game they were told they were supposed to play, and now they're looking around and realizing the prize just wasn't worth the price of admission. It's this conscious, deliberate choice for authenticity over achievement. It's a really powerful shift when you think about it. The generation that was forced into independence is now finally using that independence on their own terms. They raised themselves once, out of pure necessity. And now, in the quiet second half of their lives, they finally get to decide who they want to become. And this time, it's just for themselves.